4 linear functions, and we're going to find slope. And we're going to talk a little bit about the slope y-intercept. Okay, so we did standard form before. Now this is the slope y-intercept formula. So if I have y equals some number x plus some number, this number here that's in front of the x is always the slope. Now for some reason, we use m to represent slope, and whatever number's here is the y-intercept. It describes where the line crosses the y-axis. And we use a b for some reason to represent the y-intercept. So slope, we can use the letter m to represent slope, is always going to be a fraction, and the number on the top is the rise, and it tells you how much you have to go up or down. And the number on the bottom always tells you if you're going to go left or right, and it's called the run. Now, some people know it as how much it changes vertically and how much it changes horizontally. It's the same thing. And then this is the formula. We'll come back to it after. Okay. So here, if I want to find the slope between these 2 points, if I find the vertical change, this is the y change. If I find this number, and if I find this number, I can put it as a fraction, and that's my slope. So if I'm giving these 2 points, I take my y values, and I say, okay, this is going to be my 0.2. That's why I have these little 2's. This is going to be my 0.1. And all I do is on the top, I take this, subtract this. I subtract my y values. That gives me how much change. It gives me the distance from here to here. Okay? And then I subtract my x values. Subtract, subtract. And that gives me how the distance from here to here, how much it changes. And that's my slope. That's how I do it. I subtract the y's and I subtract the x's, and that gives me the slope. Now, what is slope? So slope measures the steepness of a line. So if the line is going this way, we can call it a positive slope because the person's going up. Now, if it's this way, it's a negative slope, and it's going down. So this is a positive slope. This is a negative slope. So if I have 5/4, that's a positive number, so it would be this way. If I have -2/3, that's going this way, and that's a negative slope. If I have 0/8 or 0/10 or just 0, that means there is no slope. It's flat ground, and it's easy to walk on. That's called a zero slope. It's horizontal. Now, if I do my math and I find my slope and it's a 0 on the bottom, that means it's undefined. It means like, whoa, I am not going to go snowboarding on that. Okay? That it's a vertical line and it's undefined slope. Here, if the 0's on the top, I can write a 0 next to it. But if I have a 0 on the bottom, I cannot write a 0 here. I have to write the word undefined. Okay, so don't put a 0 here. All right, so let's do some examples. Oh, that's not an example. Just wait. We want to do examples. It says find the slope of the line through the points this and this. So I'm going to say it's 0.1, 0.2. My slope, I'm going to use an m. That means slope. I have no idea why we use m. Okay, so I'm going to subtract the y value. So I'm going to take the y value from 0.2 and subtract it from y value 0.1. Then I'm going to do my x's. I'm going to subtract the x's, but I'm going to take the x from 0.2 and subtract it from 0.1. So -3 minus 8, and then 2 minus, be careful, it's minus a -4. So that's -11/6. So let's graph it and see what it looks like. negative 4 eighths. That's A. B is 2, negative 3. And if I connect those, it's a negative slope. So if I'm standing here, I'm going down. So it's a negative slope. Some people say if it's pointing this way in this quadrant, number 2, it's negative. Okay. One thing that you can do is, if I want to get from A to B, it says go down 11 and right 3. Right because it's positive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That takes me to B. Let's do the next one. The slope is equal to, I subtract my y's, subtract my x's, but I do 0.2 first and then 0.1. So there's 0.1, 0.2. So I go, my y's first, negative 4 subtract 7, 2 subtract 2. So it's negative 11 over 0. Ooh, we have a 0 on the bottom. What does that mean? If I have a 0 on the bottom, it means undefined. It means it's a vertical line. So I have to say equals undefined. Let's draw it. C is 2, 7. D is 2, negative 4. So we can see that it's a vertical line and the slope is undefined. Let's look at 2 more examples. Find the slope of the line that passes through the points E and F. So my slope, I subtract my y's on the top, subtract my x's on the bottom, and I'm going to do 0.2 first and then 1. 0.1, 0.2. So my y's, negative 3 subtract negative, whoa, just wait, there's too many negatives there. Negative 3 subtract negative 3. Negative 2 subtract 5. That becomes a positive. So that's 0 on the top and negative 7. So that's really equal to 0 because it's okay to put a 0 when you have 0 on the top. So my slope is 0. A slope of 0, what does that look like? When you have a slope of 0, it means it's flat ground. Okay, so 0 slope looks like that. So let's graph it to see. 5, negative 3, that's E. And negative 2, negative 3, F. So you can see it's flat. Okay. Last one. If I want to find my slope, another way to write slope is just the M. Okay. So on the top, I'm going to subtract my y's, and on the bottom, I subtract my x's. But I'm going to do 0.2 first and then 1. So that's 0.1 and 0.2. 6 subtract negative 3. Negative 2 subtract 4. So that becomes a plus. That's 9 over negative 6. If I put them in my calculator, it will be 3 over negative 2. Okay, so let's graph it. For negative 3, that's G. Negative 2, 6, H. It's a negative, which means I'm standing here and going down. Okay, or you can say it's pointing into this direction. If it's pointing this direction, it's negative. If it's pointing this direction, it's positive. Okay, now let's check the slope. If I start here, or it doesn't matter, let's start here. This means I go up 3, that means I go left 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. See how it gets me back onto the line? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I'm back on the line. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Back on the line. Now what you can do is, it doesn't matter where the negative is. You can put the negative with the 3 if you want. So then, if I start here, this means down 3 and right 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So it doesn't matter if your negative's down or your negative's up. If there is a negative, you have to keep it though. Okay? Now another thing is, it doesn't matter if you call this one 1 or this one 2. I could do the same thing and call this point 2 and this point 1. It doesn't matter. Okay? So don't worry if you call this one 1 and this one 2. All right? Doesn't matter. As long as you're consistent, as long as you're taking the points from one of them that's first, like say this is 2, I use these values first. Okay? So these values at the front are both coming from H, point H. Or they both can come from G. It doesn't matter, but be consistent. It says do point 2 first. Okay, do point 1 last.